This is not about a blow dryer, and if you thought it was, well, buckle up, Buttercup, because these conversations are hotter than that flat iron you're still wondering if you left on. I'm Kat, a hairstylist, educator, and one of the beauty industry's beautifully defiant misfits. This podcast isn't about viral hair trends, client bashing, or the latest formula for whatever shade of brown we're renaming this season. It's about the stories, the lessons, and the trial and error moments that shape careers, confidence, and the craft. So whether you're starting your journey in Cosmo School, thriving behind the chair, still finding your rhythm, or just looking for that push to get back on track, welcome to This Is Not About a Blow Dryer, where we talk beauty in a whole new way. Welcome back to another episode of This Is Not About a Blow Dryer. As per usual, I'm Kat, here to have conversations with you to hopefully leave this industry better than we found it. A quick recap, if you've been listening in, we've been focusing on the interview. Now, you had the opportunity to hear my interview process as I was trying to become an apprentice, going after my dream job, all of the juicy facts behind it. But last week, you got to hear from Cristina Cruz. But this week, I wanted to give you a slightly different take. And I'm going to be bringing you a very special guest who is going to give her take on what she looks for when she's hiring apprentices, not just for behind the chair, but also for things like shows, presentations, and even some of her special projects. Before we get into that, I'm going to do our very special little card pull. Okay. Ooh, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Oof.
Oof. So I think that's a good one. You know, I think there's so much into all the little micro changes that we make, whether they go in a positive direction or a negative direction. A lot of times we think like shit just happens, like, oh my gosh, something like magnanimous just happened and it's like my life's falling apart. But sometimes we have to reflect on like, what are all the small changes that I made to make this massive thing happen? And on the flip side of that, what are all the micro changes I can make to make it unhappen? As we move into change, let's talk about changing and transitioning and meeting our special guest today. We have Cristina Prioletta from Montreal. Now, if you didn't like my accent, Cristina Prioletta is with us today, and she's going to be sharing a little bit about her journey, the things that she looks for. And I'm going to let her talk on her because she's a very impressive human being, and I'm so grateful to know her. And thank you for being here today with us and making time. Take it away, Mama.
Thank you, first of all, Kat, for inviting me to do this. Super excited. I always love sharing my experiences over the years and just connecting with you. And we always have amazing conversations, you and I. So really, we could talk for hours and hours. So we're going to keep it shorter today. Also for your listeners, and I really love what the hair industry has become because there's so many different venues, right? So I love that more and more hair professionals are doing podcasts just like this because it's a way to reach more people at every level of experience in their career. And I think it's crucial that we have something like this. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get into this. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and I've lived here my whole life. I started my career here. I'm 18 years in the industry, and I have done quite a bit in those 18 years. So I started doing hair when I was 17. I knew exactly what I wanted to do right out of high school. My grandfather was a barber, my aunt was a hairstylist. My grandfather had his own barber shop, my aunt had her own hair salon. So I grew up in a very creative environment which allowed me to not be ashamed for being an artist myself. Because sometimes if you're an artist and you grow up in a home where, it's very corporate, it's very I don't know, bank finance, all that stuff. If you're an artist, sometimes it may not be nurtured as it should.
Yeah.
And you know that saying that, oh, the starving artist, I don't believe in that at all. Maybe once upon a time, but today it's really what you put in is what you get out of things. So that's more my mentality on things. But yeah, so I'm third generation hairstylist in my family. I've worked in several salons. I've started over a few times. In 2014, the salon that I was working at saw that I had a more of a creative flair, more than just working behind the chair. And he's like, would you want to go see this hair show? It's in Europe. It was in Frankfurt in Germany. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's so cool. Like, tell me more about it. And it was the Wella Trend Vision Awards. And I had gone to see it in Frankfurt in 2014. And I was so amazed at what these hairdressers were creating. I'm like, I got so emotional because I'm like, there's so many different people from all over the world in this one place, and we all share the same passion. And I was like, this is really powerful. This is a huge connection collectively. I was so blown away by the artistry, by the colors, by the cuts, by the fashion outfit, like everything. I was completely blown away. And I said, I have to do this. So I worked on it for a year, did cut after cut after cut. And in 2015, I enrolled in this competition and I won the bronze medal in Canada for the creative vision. And I was like, right? I was like, what?
Mhm.
Are you sure? Like, I was like, what do you mean? It's a very surreal experience. And then a few years later, I competed several years after that, and I had won another bronze and another silver in Canada. So very, very exciting. And at that time, I got hired by Sebastian Professional under the Wella company, and I was working with them for a few years, about 7 or 8 years. And with that, I got trained like I'd never had before. My first training was in LA. And I remember going there and I was like, yeah, I got this. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. And I was so humbled by that training. It was only 3 days, but it was such a boot camp, and it was exactly what I needed. Um, I learned how to actually cut hair properly with the razor. And I
Mhm.
was like, this is a whole other world of hair cutting that I had never stepped into before. And I was like, I need to just be the best that I can be at this technique because it was so unique. It's so different. It's not super common. So there was that, right? It really opened up my eyes to different venues of hair cutting. I'm more of a hair cutter than I am a hair colorist. Like I do everything, but my niche is hair cutting. So I was just, blown away by what I saw, by how much I had excelled in just 3 days. So it was really, really great.
You also now have your own education platform and you also host classes out of like Montreal and you do shows. Like, do you want to talk a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So in 2024, I had decided to host my own hair show, and I really wanted to put the spotlight on other hair professionals. Um, Hair professionals that, barbering, hairdressing, hair colorist, updo specialist, that sort of thing. So I put an event together, and for the first time ever, it was a pretty great turnout. I was really happy about it, and I got great feedback from that. So I think, I've always been really, really committed to education and growth in the industry because kind of like the card that you pulled, nothing changes if nothing changes. Woo, I got goosebumps. I was like, yes, because it's it's so true. A lot of people are looking for growth. They're looking for better. They want to make more money. They want to do so many more things, but nothing changes if nothing changes. And if you don't take the first step, then nothing's ever gonna happen. Nothing's ever gonna change, and you're never gonna grow. Um, so yeah, so doing shows and education and all that stuff, I have a very high standard of who I like to work with. And so hiring help is actually very difficult, mainly because the attitude needs to be it needs to match mine, right? So I'm still actually in the process of hiring an assistant for my day-to-day salon work. I work for myself in a salon and it's great, but I need extra hands, right? And it's really, really difficult because, and I can only speak to where I live, the mentality here, what I see, and I'm not putting everybody under this umbrella because that wouldn't be fair at all. However, I do see a lot of young hairdressers coming out of school and they just absolutely think they know everything and they're like, I want to do this, I can do that. And I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. You need to learn. You don't know everything. This is how I like to do things. And I think anyone who's listening right now who's looking for assistance, looking for a personal assistant, looking for someone to help them do shows, model prep, whatever it is, find someone with a great attitude
Mhm.
because you can help somebody grow so easily, much easier if somebody has a great attitude, but who needs to work on their technique. Whereas if someone's technique is fantastic, but they have a really crappy attitude.
Girl,
So
okay.
I think hiring someone based on their attitude
Yes.
is the number one criteria that people need to look for.
I mean, as educators, absolutely. I always say I will choose somebody with the soft skills and the right attitude over somebody with talent every day, any day,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I can teach technique. I can
Hmm.
teach, like I can make you a little animal to the point where you know this dead drunken in your sleep.
Yeah,
I can't teach you to have a good attitude. I can't
exactly.
change the person that you are because you because nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Exactly.
you know, and
It's true.
from that person. So I love that you touched on this because something I really want to ask you is, when you're, looking for people, I would love for you to speak on the difference between confidence and entitlement. Now, this is a particularly like great question I have for you because you won. I mean, it's early in your career, you won all of these titles in this very prestigious hair show. As somebody that, got these awards pretty early on, and then we're offered this education with Sebastian. You could have easily walked in with this, do you know who I am attitude. And one of the things
Yeah.
I heard you say was, man, this was so humbling. This was so incredible. This was like, you just walked
Hmm.
open. So you give like some just a voice on the difference between confidence and entitlement.
So the difference, which a lot of people actually don't think there might be a difference, being entitled, you comes from a place of arrogance and entitlement, obviously, right? It comes from a place of feeling like you are owed something. Confidence is believing in yourself, knowing that you can get the job done, but also being humble enough to know that you may not deserve this opportunity. Entitlement is just feeling like the world owes you when nobody owes you anything. At the end of the day, nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you a pat on the back. Nobody owes you you did a great job. Here's 25 clients. Like you're not owed those things. You have to work for them. You have to earn your keep. I think that people need to work on their mindset, on their attitude to build a proper confidence, not egoism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit the
Yeah.
nail on the head. The insecurity element
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really I think of when I think of entitlement. And
Yeah.
you were so nice in how you said it. You're like, nobody owes you anything. I'm always like, nobody owes you shit.
No, nobody owes you shit. No, seriously. I'm trying to be proper. We're filming, Kat.
But it is. And I think there's actually a superpower in that. And if
Yeah.
you're doing everything intentionally with, the right mindset.
And also, just to interject, also to have the right support system supporting you and people who truly love you, they will correct you. And
That is a love right there. And I think that's a love that gets misinterpreted a lot because
yeah,
the minute people see, I do believe in there's criticism and there's constructive criticism.
yeah.
Criticism says this was shitty.
Hmm.
Criticism says This was shitty. Here's how we're going to make it better. Constructive criticism has a solution and offering or something to improve it. Criticism just stays stuck. And
Hmm.
so, you really have to be aware of your surrounding, the people around you, your space, the community. Last week we actually called it an ecosystem of the salon that you exist in. What is
Yes.
so
Yeah.
back full circle and build into that. Where you live and exist in this I deserve it. Now I deserve it isn't it's not always a bad thing if you're saying like I deserve this, I've been working on it, I'm going to keep working on it, I didn't get it this time. Like that's quiet. I deserve
Yeah.
it because I want it, just because I'm more passionate than. Those
Yeah.
phrases that actually will lead me to my next question, and I hate wording it like this, but to me are red flags. When you're
Hmm.
when you instantly tell me that you are more passionate than the person next to me, I can't understand it. It also tells me that you exist in a world of comparison, and comparison will keep you small forever. What's that saying? If you measure a fish's intelligence by its ability to climb a tree, it's gonna forever think it's stupid, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that tells me you exist in comparison. That leads me to that's not a skill I can necessarily teach you because that falls back into the change that you need. For you, what are some red flags, but also some green flags that maybe you see that you're like, yes, this I want to continue forward with you, or you know what, thank you so much for your time.
So let's talk about green flags first, okay? A green flag to me is someone's positive attitude, somebody's willingness to learn and to accept that they do not know everything. So attitude at the end of the day. What is their mindset? How do they show up? Um, their ability to just be part of a team and not single themselves out like you said, I'm more passionate than this person, because what does that even mean? So I think for me the biggest green flag is someone's attitude and the way how they show up, how they will learn, their ability to learn and retain information. They're also a big thing too. I don't know if we spoke about this another time before, but when you're taking a class, education is a very vulnerable thing. So there's a lot of people that are like, I love education, but won't take the time to show up to class. Why? Well, because if you're in a class, you could make a mistake and look stupid. You could ask a stupid question, which doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a stupid question because everybody's learning ability is different and everybody learns in a different way. Some people are more technical, some people are more visual. That's fine. So that's what I mean by when I say someone, the way that they show up. Are you showing up with an open mind that, okay, I'm going into this situation, I could fuck up, I could maybe say something stupid, I could potentially ruin the whole haircut. Am I willing to do that to grow? If the answer is yes, that is a huge green flag. I will teach you until I'm blue in the face because your attitude makes me want to help you.
Mhm.
So a red flag is just the opposite of that. Someone who doesn't show up, someone who doesn't take productive criticism. It's just if you're gonna come into my class with a closed mind, why are you here?
Yeah,
Right? So for me, its attitude is everything. How can I learn from everybody? How can I grow? Throw your ego out the door because our industry has enough of that. Just show up 100% authentic, be yourself, be real, be raw, say your like your comment, just be natural.
yeah.
Stop putting the filter. Stop putting the filter on.
I do have two quick little things that I do want to ask you. First impressions as far as how somebody shows up dressed and ready for your interview.
Ooh.
How important is that to you? We exist in a time where athleisure
Yes.
and like sweats
Okay.
for, and how important is it to show up presented and put together?
So how you show up, how you dress, how you do your makeup, how you show up, is your hair done? Um, it's the message that you're telling people. That's the first thing people will see. And there's a little bit of a duality right now because there's a lot of people that will leave the house in pajamas. And there's a lot of people that will leave the house with a blazer, a shirt, nice pair of jeans, some cute shoes, hair done, like little accessories. 99.999% of the time, if somebody is asking for a job, I will hire someone who is put time into their aesthetic than someone who just showed up who looks like they just rolled out of bed. What are you doing? This is the message that you're giving people. Why do I need to see what you look like when you roll out of bed? That is unacceptable.
Mhm.
Unacceptable. So there's this woman that I follow. She's fabulous. She's Jody Sanchez. And she has done studies and she did her own research where I forget what percentage of women who
Yeah.
wear makeup and take the time to put themselves together will make more money than a woman who does not.
Mhm.
And it's not to say that you have to wear a ball gown, and I mean, that would be fun. Like full makeup, you don't have to do that. It's not to that extent. It's just elevate your own beauty. Put time and effort into your appearance. That's investing in yourself. And you have to do that.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
not every day is going to be a good day. Like you always have to make sure even on a bad day that you look presentable.
Mhm.
Because if you're offering and if you promote yourself as a high-end stylist, if you promote your services as a high-end service, as a high-end salon, well, your aesthetic needs to match what you're offering. It's something that works together. It just is. It just is. You can't ask for $1 million and look like five. It's in service. I'm talking about service, the service industry, right? You have to show up, and showing up is your attitude, showing up is your mindset, showing up is your intention and your purpose of what you want to do that day, and showing up is how you present yourself aesthetically. And
Yeah.
all of those things matter. Once you understand how they work together, you will build long-term success. It will feed to your success. You have to absolutely put the time in.
I always use the example of like if you're walking into a dentist's office and the receptionist has like really dirty, like placky teeth,
Yeah,
how are you? How good do you feel about continuing that appointment?
exactly. You're going to lose confidence in that practice.
Absolutely. Okay, my final question. What is your take on an apprentice or a new stylist that comes and interviews with you and says, I only do lived in or I only specialize and they're very early in their career? Yeah.
I think it's absurd. I think between graduating school and so like 1 to 5 years. For me, that's really early on because those 5 years are so transformative and you're a sponge. Even 1 to 10 years, you're this little baby sponge and you need to understand your potential. So if you're coming to me and you're like, oh, I only do lived in color, well, okay, why? How can you call yourself a specialist so early on? You barely understand the way the industry works. Like, do you have a clientele? How much money are you bringing in? Like, um, what are you basing this off of? That the 1 to 5 years, 1 to 10 years, and on. But I'm just emphasizing on the 1 to 5 because you're such a sponge at in the industry, is when you have to take as many classes as possible, learn how to do everything,
Mhm.
and then pick your niche. How to do everything. Learn how to do razor cutting. Learn how to do a single process, a double process, a balayage, a lived in. Learn how to do all of these things
Mhm.
and then pick your niche. If a customer comes in and says, I want a classic head of highlights, and I don't know, you're charging, let's say, $400 for that full head of highlights, are you going to turn that $400 away simply because you're like, I don't do that?
Because I only
You
want
work you work in service. You work in service. And I really honestly do respect those that want to simply focus on their niche and that's the type of clientele that they want to build. I get that. But there's a fine line between that I don't do that. Or no, sorry, I don't it's not a good fit for me. No, no. It's not necessarily what fits you. you're providing a service to the customer. Be
Yeah.
available. Make yourself available. Don't turn the client away. Do it. Keep your niche. Like my niche is haircutting. But if somebody comes in and says like this past year I've gotten several new clients just like color, I don't turn them away and I sell them on a haircut afterwards. So
Mhm.
you can always accept that customer, do what they want, but then you can always suggest, "Hey, have you ever thought of doing a lived-in color?"
Mhm.
So that all ties into a consultation and building a relationship with the client and building that rapport and creating that trust so that that client is never going to dream of going anywhere else. My hairdresser can do anything.
There's so many points in that where it's like if you become, let's say, I like to use lived in specialist because I feel like that's the one I hear so much.
So much. Yeah.
I only like want to do root smudges and lived in and this and that. And it's like that's great. That's a trend. What are you going to do to your point when your client says, I want something different?
Yeah.
We're not willing to change your technique or know more. So that means she has to change chairs. Sometimes I love somebody's heart for wanting to feel super inspired by one thing. At least when I think of color, and I think haircutting is the same way, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you could actually become so much better in what you're trying to specialize in if you learned all the foundations and techniques. Like to me, I'm like, you should learn how to do a classic foil before you learn how to do a classic balayage because they're two
Yeah.
entities. But what's neat about it is if you can master the technique of a balayage and then master the technique of a classic foil, when you go in and combine it and do that specific technique for the right person, you
Hmm.
you're picking out of your toolbox. When you say I only want to do a lived in box, you're like it's pretty much like having a toolbox and saying like I'm going to use this wrench and then somebody says can you hang up this picture and you're like yes, let me take this wrench. You need to build in all of that knowledge. So it's a
Yeah.
sure shot way if you are instantly specializing right out of school or super early in your career to push people into someone else's chair.
Clients always want to change their look at some point in time. What type of hairstylist do you want to be? Do you want to be niche or do you want to be the hairdresser that the client goes to for everything?
Mhm.
My hairdresser can do brown, red, blonde, balayage, classic highlights. Now she can do everything. This is just me. I want to be amazing at everything. When it comes to hair.
Like it's just about the knowledge that you have from knowing how to do everything. It's not even about not just specializing. If you want to specialize, live your life, but understand how to do all of the things so that you're never in a situation
Yeah.
where you only know, where you only have the right,
One. Yeah.
where you only have the
Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah.
I think we already hit on this because you and I could talk for hours. I would love to hear any final words, notes, or anything you would want anybody else to know. Some things they should look out for when they start following you after listening to this, or if they're looking to become an apprentice with you in the Montreal area.
Okay, so something to follow me with is I am launching a hair care line. It's called Mindful Rebel, and you can follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at mindfulrebel.official. And we're going to be launching our first product, our hero product, which I can't say what it is, but it's going to be fabulous because it does not exist in the industry at all. So I'm very excited about that. We're launching this August, September. So keep your eyes open for that. Follow me. And just some words of guidance is I'm going to speak to the 1 to 10 years. Learn how to do everything. You don't have to be a master at everything, but learn how to do the foundation, understand the foundations of what it is you're doing and understand why you're doing it. So the what, the why, and the how of hair. Be patient because everything that you want is going to come as long as you put in the work and you stay focused on your goals.
Thank you so much, Cristina Prioletta, Mindful Rebel. Look out for something exciting come this
Yeah.
early fall. And once again,
Yeah.
thank you all for listening to another episode. This is not about a blow dryer.